So fashion is constantly referring to styles from the past. One of the things that, the first part of this is exhibit shows is the silhouette. And since the show really focuses on the timeline of the history of fashion from 1715 to about 1915, this particular part of the exhibit shows the extreme variation in silhouette that occurs, and the white really enhances the shape of those silhouettes. So you see from the very beginning this extremely wide pannier, the very beginning piece, and it goes through the neoclassical, which is more of a cylindrical, and then it gets into the smaller waist, which was sort of early Victorian, the hourglass, and then you'll come up later in the late 1800s where you see the bustle, and then you move into the S-curve. And then finally it ends with sort of the modern silhouette. This particular dress here is what is known as a robe à la Française, and it is from the it's approximately 1765. And it's quite interesting that it's the first garment in the collection to be shown, because this is sort of the one I had picked out as one of my favorites. As we can see, the size of the dresses, they're all quite small, and I would say the average size is probably about a size 4. For me, it's kind of what I'm calling my rock star vest. One of the things that's so interesting, I do costume designs for movies, is that you have to build character, and you really have to know everything about a person when you make choices about what they are going to wear. He was most likely a bon vivant, possibly an aristocrat. Men, also at this particular time, were much more of the dandy. So these clothes represent very sophisticated patterns of textiles, and embellished with a lot of trim, gold buttons, lace. This was all very prevalent in both men's and women's clothes in the early 1700s and up to the French Revolution. When I was working on the doors, we used quite a few of these long silk velvet robes. The thing about the 60s is that it was recycling of fashion. And so in the doors, the character Meg Ryan, I used quite a bit of this type of very feminine, sort of luxurious, drapey, Japanese-inspired dressing. I was working with Madonna. One of the first things I did was to study a lot of the photographs, which we did get from books and from libraries. Unfortunately, there weren't too many shows that had these kinds of corsets at the time, particularly leather corsets. Also included are these wonderful boots here that are thigh-high lace-up black boots that are circa 1900. And if you look at them, and you'll notice that this is sort of almost like a fetish boot, and very contemporary looking. As a matter of fact, both of these items are very contemporary looking today, and in a way kind of shows exactly how provocative fashion really was at the time. Again, what happens in movies when you study particular pieces and you see authentic textiles, what we do is we kind of make creative choices. For a night at the museum, we were doing Ivan the Terrible, and he was around mid 1500s, so it was too early to find any authentic textiles that were available. So I actually used some of the research from the museum in France, from the Louvre, from paintings to actually getting reproductions, which they make in France still. Being exotic is part of being fashionable, and it's quite an interesting influence and something that you see in this collection, because at the end of the day, these pieces are about fashionable pieces. They're really the height of fashion from each particular period.